The S&P saw another big 100-point range day in the market today, opening up at 5570 or around that level, closing at 5670.97, up 0.67%. We've got the daily candlestick chart pulled up here, and we've just come right into the 20-period whole moving average, sitting at 5671.86. We also bumped right up against our lower dealer cluster zone, sitting at 5700. The 5700 strike is the largest gamma exposure concentration. It was also the biggest volume today coming in the options market. So we've now had three higher highs and higher lows in the market, starting here at this low as we pierced the 5500 level. If you recall, in yesterday's video, we highlighted the importance of this 5500 level, discussing the fact that this support level needs to hold. We're also pushing up against positive gamma exposure territory. You can see just by looking at the purple bars here on our chart. And one important note, as we are recording this in after hours, the headlines just hit. U.S. stocks drop as Trump imposes sweeping tariffs, S&P down 2%. So big news out, and this is going to be a feature of the markets most likely off and on during the course of 2025. And so putting that in the context of our gamma exposure data, we are essentially back down nearly 200 points here in after hours on the S&P, bringing us right near this big support level. So again, this support level really needs to hold. We'll have to see how this reacts tomorrow after the market opens, and we'll take a look at the shift in the gamma exposure data as well. Our GEX data updates in real time during the market hours, and we'll be discussing that in our community Discord. So I'll put a link down in the description below so you guys can come on in and check that out and see what we're discussing tomorrow during the market hours.
Thanks, Anthony. It was good to see the market actually giving me what I wanted today with the retest of the whole moving average from below on the major indices, SPX and QQQ, before failing back below that. None of that surprises me. And this rejection after hours, which has been huge after the market closed, I think the real question will be what happens tomorrow. So it's not the initial rejection that surprises me. It's the unknown of what comes next. So I wanted to look at the VIX here. We noted in yesterday's newsletter that the whole moving average rising for the VIX shows that the VIX is in a positive ascending pattern until we break this 1937 and close below it. My bias, has to be at least slightly toward the long volatility side and selling rips in stocks. So nice to see the bounce in the market with the VIX coming back, almost a perfect touch of the middle Keltner channel. And of course, if the after hours drop holds tomorrow, you'll see the VIX way up, presumably, maybe not, but I think that's probably likely if the drop holds. And today we did see volume at the 40 strike, and we, of course, have a GEX scattered between here and 42.5. So until we break this hole, the bottom line is that the VIX may still reach new highs, and we have to be mindful of that.
Thanks, Sean. Next, let's take a look at the Qs. The Qs closing at 476.15, but of course, with these tariffs announced after hours, a big drop in the Qs. So we're likely going to see a retest of our gamma exposure data here, concentrated at the 460 level. Despite this big candle here today on the Qs, it looks like we're giving up all of that range and potentially retesting this lower dealer cluster zone, which you can see was a previous support level going back to the middle of 2024. So really interesting times. We've seen volatility come back to the markets. We see a lot of gamma exposure down here at the 450 to 465 range on the Qs, and it looks like the structure as far as the Qs goes is still mostly focused on negative gamma exposure. So not out of the woods yet in terms of GEX. I have a feeling we'll be seeing volatility expansion through the April 17th OPEX, which is coming up here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, as you know, Anthony, I like to watch IWM because the small caps can sometimes be a leading indicator of where the markets are headed next. Of course, we brought attention to the lack of positive GEX at these higher strikes, and man, did they ever become almost nothing here. So not necessarily a bearish sign, because sometimes, as you know, we can get GEX extremes that are contrarian, but I was pleased to see that, as you mentioned, those indicators we like to use sometimes, like the Hull and the Keltner channels, were great boundaries today for the upside today, and we combine that with our GEX levels that we were seeing as well. So surpassed the whole at 202.86. We rejected from the middle Keltner channel almost perfectly. It's not always this perfect, but today it was pretty perfect. We'll just want to see is how it reacts once the cash session opens, if we're going to fall apart or see a rebound begin. So it'll be an interesting and volatile day for sure.
Thanks, Sean. Next, let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla, big update today, up 5.31%, closing at 282.71. Despite the big move today, it's nothing compared to the downdraft we've had over the last couple of months. And in fact, with this tariff news coming out, we're actually giving back most of these gains here in after hours. I think we're down nearly 4% from the close. So we're going to be coming back and potentially retesting our lower dealer cluster zone down here at the 250 strike. So that is still in play, even though we do have quite a big shift in gamma exposure to the upside, not quite as negative as we've seen Tesla over the last several weeks. This is a name we have been playing to the short side as somewhat of a hedge against our overall portfolio. We have a number of hedges in place at any given time on both the upside and the downside, as well as premium collection strategies. We've been playing put debit spreads on Tesla, aiming to give ourselves exposure in the portfolio should a big headline like this come out. Tesla has been quite volatile, like I mentioned, over the last several months. And so if this bounce that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks is really just a dead cat bounce for lower prices to come, potentially back down to the 250 range or even the 200 level, that put debit spread that we added to our portfolio is one of those levers that is going to give us potentially big profits based on our asymmetric risk reward strategy.
Thanks, Anthony. With the turmoil going on in the markets, we continue to try to diversify and look for ideas that are a little bit outside the realm of what's correlated in this kind of a drop. And I've got Kroger pulled up. That's KR. It's a grocery store for those of you that don't know. And it's been in a pretty solid uptrend, actually, but it's above the hole. You can see here 66.88 is the hole. We closed above 67. I just glanced at the after hours action, and it is trading after hours, but it's pretty much unfazed. And we have this big positive guess cluster at 70. I will say the largest cluster for April 4, which is this Friday, is at 68. But 70 is right around the corner at April 17. So we have positive GEX. We have an uptrend. So far, even today's decline is holding the whole, and it's considered a defensive stock. So you would expect at least that it has the possibility of behaving differently than tech and some other stocks that are more volatile and directly correlated with the index. So watching KR with 70 as a potential target for April 17.
And if you want access to our gamma exposure dashboard as well as our algorithmic trading strategies, head on over to geeksoffinance.com. Our algorithmic trading strategies is a new feature we recently added. Currently, we have 3 algorithms that give quantitative buy and sell signals with integrated targets and stop loss criteria directly in our charts, and you can combine that with gamma exposure data as well as other technical indicators, something you definitely want to check out when you get a chance. Members also get access to our community Discord. We've got a vibrant community. You can follow along with all the moves we're making in our own portfolio, as well as share ideas with other traders every single trading session. Definitely check that out. Link in the description below. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.